what is so interesting is that there is this want to say, okay, God has all these promises to Israel. Israel can't go away. So we're different than Israel. We're totally different than Israel. That's a huge problem. We are other than the covenant chosen people of God. And the covenant theology is going to try to rectify this and say, no, we're just a continuation of the people of God. There's problems with their view on this as well. There's major problems with their view on this as well, because essentially they say, well, we're the continuation, but let's reject everything that God has given these people. So let's let me move back here. I wonder if we want to look at. Sorry. Okay. So let's look at. I'm going to move to a different website here. This is by Got Questions. It's 7 dispensations. And so what they do is they kind of hash out these dispensations. Let's take a look at this. Let me move this over just a little bit. Give me just one second here. Okay. So this is from the website Got Questions, and it's on dispensationalism. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look at a couple of these. And so 7 dispensations, we are right here. So the first dispensation is the dispensation of innocence, which they say is in the garden before the fall. Okay. So, okay. I might actually have to, I might actually agree with that. I think that there's a mixture of maybe a dispensation of innocence and maybe, a covenant of works here. Okay, let's move to the second dispensation. The second dispensation is called the dispensation of conscience, and it lasted about 1,656 years from the time of Adam and Eve's eviction from the garden until the flood. Okay. Here's the problem that I see, and these are some of my objections to dispensationalism. Here's the problem that I see with this, is that the Torah was in place from the garden until Noah. The people are judged because why? I mean, why does God send the flood in the first place? There's sexual immorality on the earth. How does Noah know what clean and unclean is? Does this mean that it's kosher food, or does it mean that it's sacrifices? Either way, there's some knowledge of the Torah. Why is the whole thing about Cain and Abel a thing? Well, because murder is part of the Torah, right? So, we know that there is the law in some way is implemented on earth because God does not change, right? So I have a problem with this idea that there was this that people just, it was up to conscience, right? It was just up to conscience. Whatever a person felt, that was it. Okay, let's keep going. Human government. The third dispensation is the dispensation of human government, which begins in Genesis 8. God had destroyed life on earth with a flood, so on and so forth. So what they're saying is that during this time, it's human government. Like anybody can. But once again, why is Noah sacrificing? Why does Noah sacrifice when he gets off the ark? Isn't it law? Okay. The fourth dispensation, called the dispensation of promise, started with the call of Abraham, continued through the lives of the patriarchs, and ended with the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt. A period of 430 years. During this dispensation, God developed a great nation that he had chosen as his people. But once again, the problem that I have with this is the promise that was given to Abraham was just progressive revelation of the promise that was going to come from the woman in Genesis 3:16. And I don't think that the dispensationalists would disagree with this. But the point is that there's nothing new about this. We just know that it's going to come through Abraham's line now. So it's not there. This is not a different age. And once again, we see that that Abraham is governed by law. Okay. And of course, the dispensation of law itself, the fifth dispensation is called the dispensation of law. It lasted almost 1,500 years from the Exodus until it was suspended after Yeshua's death. So it's suspended under Yeshua's death. And of course, we're going to have a lot of problems with this, right? Dispensational law, the teaching of Yeshua at the Sermon on the Mount references that we are to keep the law. Some have contended that this was only for the Jews, but if this is the case, then what about the rest of the Sermon on the Mount? So in other words, if you're going to say that Matthew 5:17 and following is only for the Jews, well, then is all of the Sermon on the Mount only for the Jews, right? Others have contended that Yeshua's words were here were only for the dispensation of law. But once again, does this mean the rest of the sermon should be seen this way as well? And if the dispensation of grace started at John the Baptist, why isn't Yeshua preaching it on the Sermon on the Mount? Continue listening to this conversation by clicking the full show link on the left side of your screen, or check out the video on the right that YouTube thinks you'll like. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you never miss content from Messiah Matters.